Good afternoon, everyone. Very warm welcome to all of you once again. Thank you so much for joining our Dialogue Masterclass series with Great People Managers. We will wait for a few more minutes and then we'll start our session sharp at 3 o'clock. Meanwhile, I would request all of you to please participate in this session. We have such an eminent personality, HR professional today with us as a speaker who have more than 2 decades of experience and is one of the national award winning senior HR professionals. So I'm sure like we are going to get a lot of learning from this session. Whatever questions, queries you have, please post in the chat box and we will address those questions towards the end in Q&A session. I can see a lot of new names. Thank you so much, everyone who have joined our session for the first time. Thank you for being part of our family, HRAI family. All right, it's 3 o'clock and we are all set to begin with our today's webinar. Once again, very warm welcome to all our past participants present here today. HR Association of India, along with Great Manager Institute of India, welcomes you all to the 2021 Dialogue Masterclass series on the topic Leading People in the Current Times. Great Manager Institute conduct a Great People Manager survey in India, and our speaker for today has also been associated with Great Manager Institute for this process. This recognition is powered by Forbes India and Great Manager Institute. We are very grateful to have our speaker today who would be sharing his success stories, mantras, hits and misses, and achievements over leading his team in the current times. To know more about HR Association of India and Great Manager Institute, I would request all the participants visit the link and details posted in the chat window so that you can know about our webinars, the initiatives, and the session which we are conducting regularly on every week. I would request all the participants to please follow the webinar guidelines, which is mentioned in the chat window. It is my immense pleasure to welcome our esteemed speaker for today, Mr. Krishnan Bangarusamy, Associate Vice President HR of Omega Healthcare. A very warm welcome to you, sir, in our today's session.
Thank you.
Mr. Krishnan continues 5 years of global and national award-winning senior HR professional holding overall 20 years of rich HR experience, primarily in large corporates, currently engaged in a senior management role as AVP HR for 18,000 plus employee company. The position calls for aligning with top management, evolving a range of talent strategies to balance people with organizational development and paving the way for sustained business deliverables. Krishnan is a Chartered Fellow from Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development, CIPD, UK. In recognition of his leadership and management skills, he was also awarded a Chartered Companion designation from the CMI upon invitation only. He is endowed with comprehensive experience in human resources and organizational development spanning more than 20 years. Currently, he enacts Associate Vice President HR role for Omega Healthcare, a 18,000 plus employee company headquartered in the US and operating out of both India and the Philippines. Through his career as HR professional, he has performed many roles, especially in the areas of talent acquisition, talent management, talent and organization development. A hallmark of his role has been to evolve talent strategy from business strategy and thereby achieve organizational goals. Krishnan strongly believes people make all the difference. As a certified professional coach from the International Coaching Federation, he is a proponent of an empowerment-based work style. He inspires and energizes team members, employees towards turning themselves into talents. He was awarded as Top 100 Global Coaching Leaders 2018 by the World Coaching Congress. He was also awarded as Outstanding Corporate Leadership Mentor of the Year 2020, presented by Transformance Innovative HR Leader of the Year 2019, presented by HR Summit Awards by UBS Forums, Talent Management Professional of the Year 2018, presented by ET Now Rise with India, HR Professional of the Year 2017, presented by Global HR Excellence Award at World HRD, Asia Pacific HRM Congress for his outstanding contribution to global HR in 2016. Krishnan is very passionate about HRD and invests in continuous professional development in his quest for professional excellence. He has acquired many prestigious global certifications from top HR institutes such as GPHR from HRCI US, GTML from TMI US, SHRM SCP from SHRM US, and International Merger and Acquisition HR expert from IMAA Austria. Additionally, he is a certified MBTI Asia Pacific DISC and Human Potential Administrator. His thought leadership articles are published in major HR and business magazines, including Entrepreneur, CEO World Magazine, People Matters, Business Manager, Human Capital, The Hands India, My Story, Middle Earth, ETHR World, and so many others. He is also an opinion columnist for the CEO World Magazine and is a corporate leadership columnist for the Human Capital magazine. Congratulations, Mr. Krishnan, for all your achievement and for such an inspirational journey. I now hand over platform to you. I'm sure like me and all the participants are going to get a lot of learning from today's session. And thank you so much once again for joining us today.
Thank you. Quick sound check. I hope the team can hear me.
Yes, yes.
Great, excellent, excellent. First of all, Nehali, thank you so much for a very warm introduction and such a comprehensive and elaborative one, right? It is very nice of HRAI to recognize all these personal accomplishments and milestones. I think it's a great association, both HRAI as well as Great Managers Institute, for giving me an opportunity to present myself, right? I'm happy and I'm also humbled. Welcome all to the participants. I can see close to about 65 odd members. Thank you so much for making some time. We all know the value of time, given the post-pandemic work style that we have. And I'm hoping to have a very interactive session with all of you. It's a little funny that I'm using the word interactive because all of our interaction is going to be from a verbal to a text. But I'm encouraging this team to be very vocal by saying, vocal, please type whatever questions that you have. I'm only hoping to not just pass the knowledge what I gathered in over here, but also to hear a few things from you. I was also given to understand this is a mixed group. You have seasoned professionals in over here, upcoming professionals in over here. So I've designed my presentation in such a way there's a takeaway for every single person, right? With that being said, Nehali, may I go ahead and present my screen? Is that okay?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, please keep me posted the moment you can see my screen.
We can see the screen.
Excellent, great. The topic that has been given for me is leading people in the current times. Very interesting topic. The timing couldn't be any better. We've been reading about all of it through your media, through your newspaper, about the organizational challenges that is faced in leading people, especially post-pandemic. We live in a very interesting time. That's how I should put it across. And it's also equally interesting to think about the word leading. I wanted to actually start this presentation by asking a question. If you can just see my screen, are we leaders? Can anyone be a leader? I'm encouraging this group to be very participative. Please go ahead and type whatever you think is yes, no, just about 30 odd seconds. The question again I ask for this group is, are we leaders? Can anyone be a leader? That's a lot of answers. Wow, all giving straight shots. Yes, 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 yes. Great. All have potential. That's very interesting, Tushar. We are all readers. Excellent, excellent, great. So if that is the understanding, may I ask you, what is the difference between leader or leadership? Would you like to venture your answers in the chat box? Can someone tell me what is the difference between leader or leadership? Is there a difference in the first case? Go ahead, please type. There's no right or wrong answer. We're all here to learn. All right. So I take it most of you must be on phone, not necessarily able to type. But let me start off this presentation trying to bring in a difference between leader or leadership, right? Now, if you just go to Google and type the word leader, you can see close to about 6 million results in less than a fraction of a second, right? This is the kind of pull the word leader or the leadership has got, right? Brilliant, Prakash. I really like your answer. Leader is a human being. Leadership is demonstration. Fantastic. You summed it up really well, Prakash. Well done. But in my opinion, leaders are individuals, right? Mostly designated. There can also be people who are not non-designated, but in a pure sense of management, if you look at it, if you just go back to your MBAs or a theoretical way of thinking, leaders can always and will always be individuals. But like what Prakash has mentioned, leadership is a demonstration, and that's where I'm coming from. To all the answers that you posted saying that, yes, every single person can be a leader. And I'm of an opinion, a very strong belief system as well, that every single individual has got in him or her what it takes to be having the attributes of leadership. So simply put, leadership is driven by action. You don't need any titles for it. It's much of a cliche for many of you would have read Robin Sharma's book, The Man Who Had No Titles, or The Leader Who Had No Titles. I couldn't think of any other appropriate book, right? So the larger point that I'm trying to say is we don't have to be designated managers or your vice president to showcase our abilities and attributes as leaders, right? Leadership is purely through your action. It is a demonstration, like what Prakash has mentioned and over here. And leadership means it is just not an individual. It can be an individual. It can be an influential person. It can be more than one person. It can be a group as well. But the most differentiating factor for me is, while leaders are about individuals, leadership is all about followers, right? That makes a whole lot of difference. Because if you look at it, leadership always puts the importance or the reason why they have to lead, it's all because of their followers, right? Great, Vivek. I like your answer as well. Beautifully put, right? So with that difference, I want to post another question to you. Now that we've understood the difference between leader and leadership, what is that one word that comes to your mind while you're defining leadership in workplaces? I repeat this question. What is that one word that comes to your mind when you think of defining leadership at workplaces? Can you please type? Go ahead. Culture, great. Empathy, motivation, I like it. Wow, great choice of words. Anybody else? Environment, empathy, yeah, support, whatnot. Great. Results, support, vision, all very powerful words, right? And they did a lot of research around it. So when we say the word leader or leadership, you simply cannot put that in a shape and a frame, right? It's much beyond that. But the researchers actually took upon themselves to try and understand, how do we actually go about defining, though the word defining in itself is very inappropriate, but still, if we have to put that in that way, what are those, how do we actually encompass something like a leadership in a linguistic way, right? They did a lot of research for that, right? And the closest word that they can think about is trustworthiness, right? Now, if you are able to relate it well, and I'm sure many, if not all of you would agree, the word trustworthiness or the word trust in many ways speaks about leadership. I'm sure all of you agree. But it gets interesting from here. How do you go about defining the word trustworthiness? Yeah, I've given a hint out there, four different letters, a combination of four different letters as such. Would you like to venture as to what each of that would be? Let's start off with A. Any takers for that? What A would be? Straight. Okay, that's okay. Somebody Lakshmi ability, Akansha ability. Absolutely right. There are no two ways about it. It is ability, right? Can you take a shot at the second letter, B? What it can be? Wow, Angelina, I like it. This session is going to be a lot more easier than I thought. Benevolence, that's a word. A quality of leadership where they take the concern of others beyond themselves, right? It's an ability or an attribute to be very selfless in the way that they do for the larger good. Excellent. Integrity, that's no brainer. Everybody knows that that's a basic tenet or framework through which the entire trustworthiness is built upon. Any takers for the last word, P? Passion, yes. Anybody else? Okay. A lot of takers on passion. Potential, patience, perseverance. There you go. You have an encyclopedia of words, persistence and whatnot. Well, predictability is the closest, right? Now it is fantastic, Lakshmi. Once again, predictability is the regularity of a behavior. What it means is whether your leadership or your leader is able to show consistent pattern in the way that they behave. You don't want a leader who just goes off the books at times. You want person to be trusted, which means this person has to be having the ability to demonstrate the competence, should have a quality of benevolence, which means to look at a larger good than playing any sort of favoritism. Integrity, values, principles, and whatnot is a huge subject, but it's a basic tenet through which the trust factor is built, and predictability. So if you look at it, this research was conducted by CIPD UK. There are a couple of researchers who did their PhD and they presented this. And this is the closest word that they can think about when it comes to trustworthiness, when it comes to leadership as such. So I just wanted to tie back to the original point when I asked you a question, are we leaders? What is the difference between leader or leadership? The larger point that we all have to take away from this slide is, do we have the quality as leaders? Do we have the attribute of trustworthiness? Are we in a position to impanel those qualities within ourselves? Are we in a position to showcase or demonstrate those qualities and attributes within ourselves when our team members are looking out, right? With that slide, I just wanted to quickly move on to the next one. Quick question again, you don't have to type. I just wanted you guys to picture in your mind what images comes into your mind when you think of leadership. Just picture it, right? You don't have to type anything. It can mean a lot of things to a lot of people, right? Different walks of people, different time frames and whatnot. For us, it can be Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. I was very particular in choosing his picture because, somebody also mentioned Nelson Mandela and whatnot, right? Now, I was very particular when I chose APJ, not as a political leader, but as a leader, as an individual based on followers. Many of you, if you have read this book called, what's that book? Chariots of Fire, Wings of Fire, my apologies. If you actually go through that book, he talks about a particular incident and he showcases what leadership means, right? And you will have to hear this. He talks about a time, 1979, if I recollect that correctly, right? And he talks about a time when they actually put a technology for India to have a rocket, propelled into the space. The entire country was looking at it, right? There was a lot of news around it, but for very unfortunate reasons, it was not a very successful launch. Honestly, the rocket plunged into Bay of Bengal. Now, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam was actually working under the leadership of another person named as Professor Dawar, right? And Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam was very nervous as to how we face the media. because it's a huge investment and whatnot. And that's when Professor Dhawan, his boss, stood up. He said, Dr. APJ, please do not worry about it. Let me go face the media. And Professor Dhawan actually, met up with the media. He took up all the hard questions, right? But he still instilled confidence in that media fraternity and the whole country while we are on it, saying that they will turn it around. What's interesting is about 1 year from that particular time, they again relaunched it. Only this time it was a super success. And there was a lot of appreciation, recognition coming from across the country. And that's when Professor Dhawan walks up to Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam and says that, hey, now it is your opportunity to go meet up with the media. For me, that speaks volumes about leadership, right? A true leader is somebody who will not take credit alone. A true leader is somebody who takes responsibility for the team's action and is always behind. And that's exactly the reason I put this picture of this great gentleman. For some of us, it can also be more contemporary leader. I couldn't think of any better contemporary women leader as such as Indra Nooyi, who has been very consistent to be part of the top 100 powerful women in globally, having her roots from India, right? But personally, if you ask me, I cannot think of any better person as a leader than my own father, right? I would to take about 30 seconds and over here. It's been about 25 years since I lost him, but the amount of effort that he has put in for his 6 children, that all of us are actually graduates, if not postgraduates. We are doing well in what we are doing, right? So like I said, it can mean different things to different people. And for some of our superheroes within ourselves, sometimes we feel individuals can also be leaders. In many ways, we can think we ourselves can be leaders, right? So it can all come to it. But the larger point that I'm trying to drive in is your choice of leadership will actually picture as an image depending upon your value system and belief system, right? Anybody can choose anybody as a leader. It can actually align in terms of your values and your belief system. Now, there's a slight difference between values and belief system. Just so all of you should know, values are something that you hold as very important to you, right? And belief system are something that you hold as true to you, right? And if you ask me, so what it actually takes to exhibit this quality of leadership in workplaces, it can be multiple things. There is no one-size-fits-all solution. It has to be situational. But in the interest of this current situation that we have and the challenges organizations are facing, I have put across a threefold approach how we can possibly monitor, motivate, coach a very effective team as such. And this threefold approach is the shared vision and common goals, motivation and coaching. And what I'm actually hoping to do in the next 20 odd minutes is to give a quick run through about each of these slides as to what I think some of the key attributes as such, and I encourage you to be more participative as it is required. First, shared vision and common goals. I keep going back to this word trust. For me, in the space of management, even outside management, the word trust is really golden, right? And I think I again go back to the same sentence. It's a basic tenet through which everything is built upon. Now, if you wanted to have a shared vision and common goals with your team, it is very important for all of us to be very transparent. Our communication should be very open, trustful in nature, right? It all comes back to the word trust. And it's also equally important that we set collaborative goals, not individual goals, right? So in that way, you actually encourage people to work with each other. Keep your communication channel open. This is also equally important because if you do not keep your trustful communication channel open, then people will lose trust. And if they lose trust, it loses steam. It's almost like a train which runs with no track whatsoever. It is simply not possible. And you should also keep it more foresighted than actually just thinking about the past. And let me also tell you, this is a framework that we have used it very effectively in our organization in the last 18 months. And it's actually yielded us a fantastic amount of results, right? Now, I'm actually in closing this particular slide, rather this particular subject with this word. You continue to encourage personal development and motivation, right? Now, this is also equally important because it is just not about sharing your vision and common goals. It is about how it all dovetails to a very particular facet called as motivation. While you can get everybody board from your team members into the goals and the common goal approach as such, how are you going to set the direction? While you align them, how are you going to motivate them to the next level? And that's how it actually moves on to the next part of it. I wanted to pause here with a quick question asking, can anyone tell me what motivation is? Please use the chat box. Sorry, Nehali, one moment. I'm not able to see the chat box.
Chat box, like if you will see the bottom bar near the share screen button, you will find an icon of chat.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah. So I'm just asking a question to this group. What, according to you, is motivation, please? Right. So I have somebody who's answering me, preparing ourselves to go further. Absolutely right, Amani. I agree to this. Anybody else? Any further takers? Encouragement to achieve a common goal. Fantastic, Angelina. Fantastic. Anybody else? Pushing to do more. That's a very interesting lesson. When you say pushing to do more, according to you, is this a internal push within yourself or somebody has to push you? All right, so we will leave with that because people will have to. Somebody else, that's interesting, Vasan. We need to talk about it. Encouraging level of desire to do something. Great answers, John, Ebenezer, great answers. But you know what we need to understand is there is a general misconception about the word motivation, right? The important point that we need to be aware of is what is motivation for you can be a basic hygiene for somebody else. I thought it's very important for me to bring this to this particular group because many of you, if not most of you, will have your own team members. For us, we may feel certain things is a great motivation for the team, but the fact of the matter is it need not necessarily be. It can be a basic, essential thing for them to do their jobs. You know, the other time I was speaking to an upcoming CEO who has his own venture, own startup, and he was talking about the challenges that he's facing in order to attract the right talents as such, especially at the entry level. So he was racking his brain, talking to me and many other forum members as well as to how I can motivate a large workforce to join me, especially given the demographics of about 18 till about 19 years old age. So one of the pointers that he put forward after doing a little bit of homework saying that, hey, you know what, I'm going to give a laptop to all these joiners and that's going to be a great motivation. So I had to correct that gentleman. We are living in a digital world. If you think your laptop is actually going to motivate them, now that is not the truth. The fact of the matter is the laptop is being looked at a basic essential. And if you think you're going to differentiate it between a desktop to a laptop, then I'm sorry, but then we are living in a stone age, right? So the larger point that we need to understand in over here is what it means to you as a subjective reality can actually mean something else to somebody else, right? Again, there is no one size fit all. You need to know your people in order to motivate them. But at a very broad level, motivation can be extrinsic and intrinsic in nature. Any takers, extrinsic and intrinsic, what it means? I'm also keeping a lookout for the time. I was told by Nehali I have to close it by 3:45 sharp. Great, Prakash. Bang on once again. External and internal, as simple as that. Motivation is both within inside and external. Fantastic person. I agree to this. Extrinsic means that a motivation that happens necessarily outside that particular individual, right? I've given you a couple of examples. It can be a promising way of giving you bonus, or it can be some sort of a disciplinary action and whatnot. And I couldn't think of any other graphic than the one that you see with the dino with that little boy or the little man running away from it. It's an external motivation. You better run, right? It can be in many forms. Intrinsic motivation is more spontaneous, right? It drives the people internally. It is a spontaneous satisfaction an individual gets, right? Now, evidence, when I'm saying evidence, I mean to say research has again and again showcased through intrinsic motivation, you can actually attain very high levels of motivation, right? And it has to be driven within. Now, through that research, they've also found if you give opportunities for your team members, if you lead your team members with a theme of ensuring that they have a sense and meaning, a purpose, or a competence, and a progress as such, people will be able to take ownership to what they do, right? And I think that this is a very, very important point for all of us to learn who are managing small teams, large teams, medium-sized teams, and whatnot. Because, you know, in other simple management works, it just translates into you giving more authority to that particular individual, right? You are giving more entitlement to that particular individual. You giving more a sense of freedom, and not necessarily breathing down on his or her shoulder. I think to a large extent, it actually triggers the intrinsic motivation in many ways. But the fact also remains it can depend on every single individual, not necessarily one size fits all solution, right? Now, the key for all of us as managers or as leaders is to know your people. Now, we spoke about what leadership means. We also spoke about the attribute of leadership. We also spoke about what motivates people. But more importantly, it can be very unique for every single individual. Again, human beings are very unique specimen, right? There is no way with this 7.5 billion people that we have on this earth that every single individual is same, or at least two members are same. Every single individual has their own attributes, has their own motivation, motives, triggers, and whatnot, right? So it is important for us to identify our own team members, that what actually motivates these individuals, whether it's extrinsic in nature or intrinsic in nature, right? The best way for you guys to do it, or at least that I've experimented in the recent past, is that take a career stage of your individual members in your team members and try and find out at what level or what is the actual motivation for them to do what they're doing. There's a lot of tools in the internet, some of them being MBTI, which talks about preference of people's work style. But if you ask me, people broadly may fall under four categories. One is your climbers, who describe their success in terms of external criteria. That's, for example, your promotions or some sort of an elevation, a larger portfolio, and whatnot. You have those set of members. Then you also have experts who always want to be seen of achieving something, doing something, getting recognized for that. Now, before I go into the other two, can I have some quick takers? Can you tell me whether this is extrinsic or intrinsic motivation? To start off with climbers, can you tell me whether it's extrinsic or intrinsic, please? E. Okay. Anybody else? E. Okay. E. Or everybody is saying E. Okay. John Francis is saying I. That's very interesting. Okay. What about experts, please? Can you take a shot at that? Okay. I see Neela saying I, Linda saying I. Okay. Okay. Great. Great. We will come to that. I'm moving on to the third set called as self-realizers. For them, it is more about personal, fulfillment, right? For them, more than anything, it is important for them to have a very balanced work lifestyle, right? And they actually measure success in their own terms. And these sort of people will fall under self-realizers category. And you also have those set of members who are under influence category. What it means for them is to ensure that the work is getting done through the approach that they have. These are the four set of career-wise people that you can broadly segmentize to understand your own folks, right? Again, a quick question, self-realizers, is this an E or I? Any takers for that? Okay, wow, that's all I. Great, happy to know that. What about influencers? Is this an E or I? Now, this is the most interesting part. Okay, somebody says E, then somebody says I. Okay, carry on. Anybody else? Any other takers for that? Influencers? Great. So I'm not going to actually say each of this is E or I. Sometimes it can be a combination of both, just that one thing stands out to be another. But if you wanted to truly approach a takeaway from this particular webinar, it is very important for you to go back, spend some time, try and understand about your team members and categorize them based on some sort of an assessment all through your relationship building, right? And categorize them an E or I. The reason I'm not giving answers in this particular webinar is that the quality time that you're actually going to spend is going to define your measure of success with your team, right? It is going to change the way that you're going to manage and you lead your team. It is going to further build upon trust. Because end of the day, if you honestly ask me, it is all about recognition. If you are able to recognize those values, those belief systems of your individuals through a particular medium, and you capture that, then it becomes a sheer way of building those successful careers into success. Let me put it that way, right? Now, it's not going to be easy. It is not something like that you go back home tonight and just put things across and say this person is E or this person is I. No, it doesn't work that way. You have your own experience with each of these individuals. It's important for you to spend quality time try and connect with that person at a very, how do I say, intrinsic level, right? In a very authentic level. Try and understand what are some of the key strengths and what it actually means for him to come up. If you're able to do that, I think you're pretty much done being a leader, right? And you will eventually realize each of your team members will be in their own auto start mode. And not only that, they are leaders in making. Tomorrow, the amount of influence that they have on the younger generation will be much more higher, right? Now, I wanted to pause here. I wanted to actually share an industry best practice. In my organization, technically, I'm not allowed to share the entire thing, but I did ask permission with my CHRO as well to share this. We have a unique practice called as a spark card practice. What it means is if we find individuals exhibiting those qualities and behaviors which aligns to the organization's mission and vision, then we actually give them a spark card, right? Now, this has worked miracle for the organization, and it continues to work miracle for the organization, because when they actually understand the management as such, or the organization culture as such, is about recognizing those sort of behaviors, then they tend to exhibit these behaviors more frequently. And that's almost like it's almost like a wildfire, right? One thing relates to another. And what happens is, as people see these qualities getting recognized, many of the other people also practice it. Now, without going into much details, we identified about 5-6 attributes employees should exhibit in order to achieve the organizational values, in order to achieve the organization mission and vision. And we actually produced or designed the spark card in such a way it gets translated across the organization as well. And of course, more importantly, we recognize that through forums. We recognize that through quarterly rewards and hourly rewards, right? Okay. Yeah, I'm still on time. Let me quickly move on to the third aspect of this. I spoke about one, shared vision. I also spoke about motivation. Now I'm quickly going to the third aspect, which is third fold, which is coaching. My own favorite subject, right? Now, okay, great. Let's go back at what I just mentioned. You share your vision, which means you align your individuals, you align your juniors, you set a direction to them, and this direction is in line with your organizational mission and vision. Number one. Number two, you motivate them. You motivate them to perform to their best, right? Well, as much as you motivate them, it is also important. People may have, their own shortcomings. It can be very technical or it can be non-technical also. And they need support. And that's where leaders like us should step up. It is very, very important for us to coach them to success. I like this definition I picked up from the International Coaching Federation. It's very interesting. I'm not going to read through that. It's for you guys to read through that. But I really like the word called as partnering out there. If you just think about it, they are not saying you have to lead them or you have to teach them. They're using the word partnership, right? For me, it means that you have another leader in making, right? It is about that you actually give an opportunity for that person to reflect upon whatever that person thinks is an area that he needs to improve upon and work upon it as well, right? There are many ways of coaching. There are structured ways, there are unstructured ways. Some people tell me, Krishnan, this is great, but the way that we actually converse with our juniors is also a way of coaching. Yeah, agreed. But if you wanted to take a very structured approach to it, if you wanted to take a very outcome-driven approach to it, so my personal suggestion would be to take one of those coaching practices. You've got many of those. Some of the popular techniques can include your GROW model, Oscar model, positive model. This, zillions and zillions of, reading material on the internet, or please do reach out to me. I'll be happy to share it with you. But one particular technique that I'm proposing to this group is a very simple technique called as a GROW model, right? You don't have to be an International Coaching Federation coach for that, or you can just be as simple as a person as what you are. But what it actually gives you is it gives a meaning, a sense, a direction, and a purpose to it. If you look at it, each of this letter, it actually abbreviates into a particular word. Goals, for an example, right? You can actually connect with your team members and try and find out what are some of the short-term goals and long-term goals that they have in their mind professionally, that they want to achieve, let's say, in the next 6 months till about the next 3 years. So what happens is, during your trustful conversation, that particular individual also partners with you to get better. But it's also equally important. These goals are smart goals, which are very specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. Right. Great to have any sort of goals, either it's a lofty goals or quick pickings as such. But the important thing is it has to be measurable, right? At any given juncture, you need to be able to track your progress. Now, if you're able to establish a goal with a partnership model with your juniors, then you should also make them go through a reality check, because given their experience, sometimes they might just want to land up in the moon. I always have the privilege of having some great DRs in my team, and I continue to get a lot of inspiration, a lot of reverse mentoring from them, because they're up to mark in every single thing that I can think about. But sometimes I've also seen them to have very high goals as such, right? Now, it is important for us as leaders to make them to understand, be very realistic about their goals as well. And this can be done through self-realization as well. And we basically facilitate this entire process. We do not push people for their goals, we facilitate for the entire process. And it's also equally important for them to think about the options, right? And this is where you really trigger their creative and thinking mind, right? You don't give solutions. You say that, okay, this is your goal, this is what you need to do. No, you don't do that at all, because that's not going to yield results. Because every time the person is going to face a problem, then he continues to bank on you. However, you can actually engage in a co-creating activity and actually, trigger them to think a little more creative, right? Now, human beings are capable of doing great things. We have seen that we are at a particular stage in technology. What was considered to be impossible about 100 years before, we are just taking it for granted in our, in the way that we actually live, be it in the technology space or whatnot, right? Given the capability of the individuals, right, what are some of the options that they can think about in order to achieve the goals? Taking complete ownership about it, right? Now, this is going to be very important. Even more important is, while we do all this thinking, it is important for you to transfer this particular goals that you have in your mind, with the options that you have in your mind, into real-time actions, right? And these actions should be result-oriented, and that's how you tie this up to the first point, goals as well. Try this out. It's a time-tested method, coaching. Lately in India, I should say the last 7 years, a lot of coaching definitely seems to be a very popular practice as such. But I should tell you, this thing started off early 2000s from the Western countries and continues to give us great results as such, right? And in countries like India are waking up for the last 6 or 7 years, and we're able to see progress. And this is not something that I'm just giving you as an input. Research states that PricewaterhouseCoopers did a research, and it mentioned that the ROI for companies that invest on coaching is 7 times more than the investment, right? And personally, I'm very proud to talk about my own organization as well. We are one among the very few organizations in the country to have 10 certified professional coaches, right? And that's doing a world of marvel for us, because we are able to establish a coaching culture within the organization as well, right? Again, I go back to my own point. It is not necessary that you have to be a certified coach. You can actually engage through a simple, trustful discussion with your juniors or your team members and actually work upon this grow model, right? It's as simple as that. Again, a lot of theory around that in the internet. If otherwise, you can also reach out to me. Okay, just take a pause here, and I have about 4 minutes before 3:45. I was told to close it by 3:45. I also wanted to share a quick success story of one of the organizations which employed coaching, right? Transfer of learning. How this coaching was used or utilized to change the mind shift, right, of their employees. Now, we keep hearing about it, right? Starting March 24th of 2020, the talent landscape has changed. We all know the reasons for that, pandemic, etc., and whatnot. Just about the time we thought the pandemic is behind us, the worst is behind us, then somewhere out of the blue comes the second wave, right? And people continue to have apprehensions because people are already talking about third wave, right? And I've heard and I read some articles about how Europe is going in shutdown and whatnot. Now, what it also means to these employees is that they have certain apprehensions about it as to how this is all going to operate. So let me pick up this particular case study that I had a chance to discuss with another senior HR person from his industry. And he's been kind enough to share this, and without talking about the particular company's name, the situation was this. Like I said, pandemic continues to drive the talent landscape, right? But there was a reason for the employees to come back to office. Uh, August of this year, this particular company, from being from a highly regulated industry, so compliance plays a key role. So it was important for this members to be at office, and we are talking about a small company which is about 2,000 employees on the whole, right? So yeah, so the situation demands like that, and so the task that was given to the senior management is to how you're going to encourage these employees to come back. So right. So the key point that we need to note over here is people are used, or people have started to have set waves, right? Now they're operating in such a way. Uh, Honestly, let's look at it. I'm sure that is most of us can be able to relate to. Well, given an option, we wanted to work from home, right? The question that we all comfortably put forward is also, if we are able to give the same productivity from home, why should we even come into the office in the first place? But the challenge of this particular organization was very unique. Like I said, it's from a highly regulated industry as such, which means it is always best the work practices are conducted in a very safe environment as such, right? So there was opportunity for this particular management to employ many ways to get the employees back into office. Of course, they can take the stick, right? They can tell, you know what, if you don't come into office, you lose the job, stuff like that. Or they can also take carrot approach, saying that if you come into our office, we can pay you so much and so, right? But this particular senior management took an approach of coaching, because they didn't want to do this as a one-time activity. They wanted to see this as an opportunity to bring in trust within the organization as such. And that's where they actually employed a coaching team practice. They identified about 4 or 5 themes through which those objectives can be met. Building trust, I tell you, it is like a basic, essential thing. I do not know how many of you guys remember your basic theory of Hertzberg motivation theory. There's a difference between, hygiene and motivation. So for me, trust is always a basic essential an organization should have. It is a basic tenet, right? Number 2, the leadership actually walk the talk. What it means is the junior management, middle management, and senior management were in office premises, and they comprise about 2% of the workforce. It's just about 20 odd members from this 2,000 set of employees that they have. But that instilled confidence among these members, right? And it is not at the same time they said, hey, you know what, we came into office, why don't you? No, they didn't put that pressure. They started to come in advance, and they started to take calls in office, and that kind of instilled a lot of confidence and inspiration among the employees. Number 3, at any given point of time, they never put the safety and well-being of their employees behind, right? Yes, of course, we all have business interests. Organization has got a certain commercial interest, but at the same time, it is all about the employees. So any given point of time, they never force people, or they did not compromise in the guidelines that has been provided. The 4th theme is the most interesting theme. They actually took the time and effort to invest on each of these members whenever they get a possibility for them to get coached, right? Removing inhibitions, removing apprehensions, because when we actually talk to individuals, it is when they realize the kind of problematic situations that people go through. The HR head was kind enough to say close to about 30% of their workforce were in a different place altogether because of this pandemic situation. They had to relocate to the native. So some of the practical problems that they had a chance to open up, right? And what's more interesting is they did not take this coaching as just an engagement activity alone. They took this as an opportunity activity as such. They actually employed single loop and double loop learning. It might sound a little theoretical, but the truth is single loop simply means there's a change in behavior, but they did not shoot for that. They actually encourage their employees to think beyond. They actually challenge their employees to have the courage to think beyond about what were decisions that they have taken. So double loop learning simply means, do you have the ability, do you have the courage to think about the decisions that you've taken based on whatever consequences or situations that you're in, and are you willing to relook at it? So what it really did is it really triggered the individual's ability to think and the passion that they share, right? And it got some great results. I was told the results were, of course, the junior, middle, and the senior management was present. Number 2, The percentage of employees also increased significantly, but also progressively. They did not do any sort of a push activity. Never at any given point of time they took a step. Number three, engagement levels increased, and it started to build trust in a different tangent altogether, right? And we all know Gallup speaks about it. Every single research speaks about it. An engaged employee workforce can mean all the difference to an organization being number one, right? With that and a quick time check, I think I'm about 3:47. I'm right on time. I am closing this particular presentation from my side. I leave it to Nehali right now for the next course of action.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Krishnan. And I'm so sorry about telling you about the 3:45. The only reason was like we want to take more and more questions. Yeah. So before we start Q&A session, would request all the participants to please give your valuable feedback on the poll. We would love to have your feedback on this session. Meanwhile, you can post your questions in the chat box. You can also share your name, email ID, and the session details which you are attending so that you can claim your e-certificate. Please share your details on the email ID team@hrassociationofindia.com. All right, so we have a question from Trisha. You spoke a lot about motivation and also many ways to build it. What is the style that you employ?
Okay, that's a very interesting question. Thank you so much, Trisha, for asking this. Yeah, you're absolutely right. People have their own styles, right? But even before I tell you what is a technique or method or style that I employ, the first thing that I did is to understand my team members' strengths or my team members' preference as such, right? It's important for us to understand whether that particular individual gets motivated intrinsically or extrinsically. And then you, of course, engage your styles. But if you honestly ask me what is the style that I employ, I'm a big proponent of something called as an appreciative inquiry. I'm not too sure if many of you would know that. What it means is appreciative inquiry does not talk about problems alone. It talks about solutions, right? It does not disregard solutions, but it talks more about, sorry, my apologies. It does not disregard problems, but it also speaks about solution more. What it means is if you have an individual, right, and the individual is going through a difficult time, my way of engagement would be 80% to talk about this particular person's strength rather than focusing about the 20% of the weakness part of it, right? How can you basically use your strength to bring the best in you? How do you actually bring the best potential of this individual? And you need to consistently recognize that. And I again go back to this, I have a great team. I'm blessed with a great team, right? Many of my team members, if not all of them, have been working with us for the last 9 years right now in this organization. So that way I built, we share a great relationship. But I think this was built very progressively, knowing the strength of each of this individual, right? Now, to answer to your question, appreciative inquiry is something that I employ. It is not an individual style. I've been blessed with some great seniors in this organization as well. It is some of these things that they've inculcated on me that I'm actually translating to the next level also. Please do some read up about that, Trisha, about appreciative inquiry. Please do reach out to me. We can talk a little more on that.
Sure. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Next question is from Ebenezer. What is your opinion about the new age workforce?
Oh, yeah. Now that's a great question, Ebenezer. I'm not too sure what prompted you to ask this question, but this seems to be the buzzword lately, right? There's a lot of articles about trends, about what's actually happening in the industry. You wanted to call them Generation Y, you wanted to call them millennials, or you wanted to call them Gen Z also, just so all of you should know, anybody who was born beyond 2000 and above are called as Gen Z. And I think those workforce have started to be available towards starting 2018, 19 onwards, right? Now, what is different from this Gen Z when you compare to a Gen Y or a Gen X for that case is that they require instant recognition, right? Now, if you belong to an organization, Ebenezer, which has got a good set of this young workforce, then my suggestion to you is have your organizational best recognition, which is more instantaneous, which reaches out to him. Gone are those days. People exhibit loyalty for about 3 or 4 years, right? People wanted instant options also, and a lot of things also contribute to it, both internal and external factors in mind. And I've also experienced in the recent past the Gen Z or even Gen Y to a large extent. They take quick decisions and they're very, very fast. But what is more interesting about them is they value true recognition, right? They actually look up to those organizations and those leaders which can actually contribute to their success and progress. So if you are able to have such practices in terms of your career progression, your succession planning and whatnot, I think it's a great way to engage great way to engage this younger workforce and take advantage of them.
The next question is from Hiral. Which are the common areas where employees need to be skills ready by the time of crisis is over?
Okay, I just want to be sure I read that question right. Just give me a second, please.
Yes.
One moment, please. Sorry. What was the question again? I'm not able to scroll.
Yeah, which are the common areas where employee needs to be skill ready by the time crisis is over?
Okay. The person who posted this question, may I have the person's name?
Hiral Shah.
Hiral Shah. Great question, right? It's a very interesting question also that you used. Skills ready post-pandemic. But if you look at the last 18 months, Shah, if I may just call you, almost every 6 months, you see a change in the need of skill set, skill sets which is actually available. People spoke about data scientists and so much of other things just about 18 months before. Now it is coming to a stage, there is a next level to it. If you personally ask me if there are one of the standard ways skills can be put in a box to be ready, my answer would be no. But at the same time, there are certain soft skills which is actually required for any individual, irrespective of the technical skills that they have, right? Technical skills can depend upon so much of other factors, depending upon the profession that you are. But from a soft skills aspect, if this person has, one thing that I can think about is the ability to learn, right? Being a student for a lifetime. If these are some of the attributes that individual can actually employ, I think that can present them a great opportunity with good organizations to learn new skills as well. Because believe it or not, the skills are going to change every 6 months, if not at least every 3 months, the way I see it. I do not know whether many of you follow global trends. It was mentioned in Economist. There is a magazine called Economist. It was mentioned in that what we are going through as a change between 2016 till about 2021, this 5 years of change, you have not actually experienced in the last 50 years before that, right? Why I'm bringing this relevance is change in itself means change in many things. Change in advancement, change in technology, change in skill sets. So your technical skill sets will continue to change, but it is your ability to learn those skill sets, right? This willingness, that going that extra mile and trying to bring the best out of you will make all the difference. I hope I've answered your question, Asham.
I'm sure, definitely. It was interesting question and interesting answer as well. Thank you. Next question is from Sandra Fernandez. What are the key leadership traits very essential for rapid and successful recovery from the current situation? Key leadership traits.
Key leadership traits. Can you repeat that question once again, please? Sorry.
Sure. What are the key leadership traits very essential for rapid and successful recovery from the current situation?
Okay. Beautiful question, right? It's so relevant. The first trait is change, our ability to embrace change, right? Well, I actually put it in a very small word called as change, but it encompasses so much of things. In many ways, the question this person has put forward is related to Shah's question earlier also. If you ask me as a trait, the key trait for me from a leadership angle is that you should be willing to embrace change and accept it as a way of life. And what it means to embrace change, In terms of leadership, it can actually come into many forms. It can be your situational leadership, a willingness to change according to situations, or a willingness to change depending upon the crisis system that we have. And there is a great stem of new leadership that is getting recognized worldwide. I'm not too sure many of if you would have heard about servant leadership, right? Which is more participative in nature. Some of the traits of that servant leadership includes to understand individuals and give them the key responsibility and stand back, right? Giving that some sort of an empowerment and entitlement to go ahead and do it, right? That is one particular skill that I can think about. Beyond which I can't think of any technical skills as such, but if you just if I may just type few things, because the leadership is of a great interest to me. The person who posted this question, may I know this person's name?
Sandra Fernandez.
Sandra, with your permission, I'm just sending you some sorry, I don't know whether you have received it. Did you get that, Nehali, by any chance?
No, sir, I didn't.
No problem. Sandra, the larger, I'll share some information around it. Sandra, I've actually written about 7 articles in leadership alone, right? I don't think we can think about any specific attribute technically, but to a large extent, if you do your homework around situational leadership, or in particular servant leadership, I think you'll be able to encompass quite a bit of traits in that, because it's we can actually take a workshop on that, right? Let me put it that way.
Yeah, we got a response from Sandra saying, thank you so much, sir. I think she got it. Yeah.
Okay, did she? Okay, great.
Okay, last question for the day, like from Miss Deepti. How do we become full-fledged professional coaches?
How do we become, sorry?
How do we become full-fledged professional coaches?
Yeah, okay. There are a lot of global bodies, Deepti, for this. If your aspiration is to become a full-fledged, a coach as such, there are courses for that. There are certification courses for that. Some of the apex bodies in coaching that I can think about is, of course, International Coaching Federation. Then you also have something called as EMCC, which is your European Mentoring Coaching Council, right? These two, that's quickly that I can think of. And if your question is the time frame, etc., you may want to invest about next 12 to 18 days to get to different stages. Understandably, they have a beginner, a medium level and an advanced level as well. It can depend upon the kind of levels that you want to get into. But I can assure you, it will be a very interesting journey, Dipti. If you are thinking about it, I think you have started your first development activity, because it's all about starting it right now. So yeah, please do your homework. ICF is one that I can think about. EMCC is another one. And there are a couple of other things also based upon Australia and Singapore, but you can do some homework around. But these two institutes which I spoke to you about, it's much more global, and it's globally recognized as well. They have their own code of ethics. They have their standard practices also. It's a competency-based examination that you need to clear in order to be certified as a coach.
I'm sure Dipti has got the answer. Thank you so much to all the participants for asking the interesting question. If you have any questions or any query, like you can reach out to us, and if time permits, like we will get in touch with Mr. Krishnan and we'll get back to you over the email or WhatsApp groups. So thank you so much, Mr. Krishnan, for a great and insightful session. Many key takeaways, like starting from what is leadership, motivation, 4 types of like how can we know our team members, recognition and reinforcement, coaching for success, and last one, the coaching technique, which is called GROW, and the list goes on and on. So lot of many key takeaways. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure being with you today, and I'm sure all our participants have had a lot to learn and take away from this session.
Thank you. I just wanted to add some closing notes to it. Thank you so much, Nehali, for being in touch with me. Once again, I take this opportunity to thank this very receptive audience who have engaged with me. Honestly, I didn't see the time going. Great to get connected to you. I request you to please stay in touch with me. I'm available on LinkedIn. You can please reach out to me for any questions that you may have. Nehali, I wanted to also take this opportunity to thank HRAI and the Great Managers Institute for providing me an opportunity as well. I truly enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Yeah, as you have said, like this would not have been possible without the support of Great Manager Institute, where we are privileged to be working with them on this series. To know more about Great Manager Institute and their service, I would like to welcome Ojas Mishra to share few words about Great Manager Institute. Ojas, you will need to unmute yourself. We have given you the co-host, right? You can unmute yourself.
Okay, yes. Am I audible?
Yes,
I think
yes.
there was some technical issue. Thank you so much, Nali, for conducting this session. Thank you so much, HRAI, for giving us the opportunities to be under the tutelage of leaders like Mr. Krishnan. And thank you so much, Mr. Krishnan, for that insightful talk. I think for young people like me, listening to leaders like you talk is always inspirational. It gives me a great perspective for things to do as I progress up the ladder. And like you rightly said, when you spoke about recognition, I think I resonated with it to a very great extent, because that is what most of the current work, instant gratification is something that we are all after. But the way you spoke about coaching and understanding your teammates is, I think, it's indispensable when it comes to creating a high trust, high performance, culture within an organization. It is imperative, and I don't think there is anything that can sort of transcend the importance. So thank you so much for bringing to light all of those aspects. And so here at Great Manager Institute as well, we believe that these individualized and memorable practices and rituals that leaders conduct, they make the employee experience so much more memorable. It's often not about the organization, but the people you're working with, the people you're working under. That's how you remember any organization. And I think it's a testimony to great leaders like you that this concept has become, and it's gaining more momentum as we move forward. The importance of a truly great leader is now dawning upon people. They realize why being a great salesperson is not just going to be enough to make you a great sales manager. You need to be an excellent and efficient people coach as well. So that is what we do at Great Manager Institute. We love to train people and help them enhance their people management capabilities, give them the right sets of tools, give them the right set of capabilities, the right kind of mediums to actually connect with their team, to help them develop the team and inspire them when the times are dark. And that is the true hallmark of a great leader. We've worked with about 30,000 managers now across these 4 years, and the importance of these personalized practices so many times, like Mr. Krishnan himself said, it transcends from being a personal practice to something an entire organization is identified with, right? And that is so important when it comes to the context of building a culture. It doesn't just limit itself to being one leader, it transcends. And that's essentially what we aim to do. We understand that organizations that require to have a high trust, high performance culture, we need to begin from every single manager. Train them, have them, give them the right kind of tools, the right kind of skill sets in order to conduct the kind of change that will make every organization a great place to work, and that will enhance the capabilities of entire organizational culture. So thank you so much, HRI, for giving us this opportunity to be in touch with leaders like Mr. Krishnan. Thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful session. I really enjoyed it, as I hope others in the audience have truly. And for anyone who'd love to be a part of one of these certification programs that we conduct, you can reach out to me. Nehali, if you could just have that slide with my contact details. And for a limited time only, we have a discount of 7,000 rupees on our certification package. So if you feel that this is something that is aligned with your goals, feel free to reach out to me, and I'd love to walk you through what we do here at Great Manager Institute. Thank you so much once again. Over to you, Nehali.
Thank you so much, Ojas, and thank you so much for extending the benefits to HRI family members. Thank you so much. So would request all the participants to please join for our next masterclass, which is tomorrow on the same topic, leading people in the current times, a session by Mr. Menak Ranjan on 26th of November, 2020. Please register for this event at the link which is mentioned in the chat window, or else you can simply join the Dialogue 2021 WhatsApp chat group through the invite link which is shared in the chat window. That's it for today. Thank you so much once again for joining. I'll see you everyone tomorrow. And thank you so much, Mr. Krishnan, once again.
Thank you, Nehali. Thank you to this group. Thank you so much. Truly appreciate it. Thanks a lot. I totally enjoyed the session. Thank you.
Thanks, Shyam. We can conclude this session.
Thank you.